Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today we are going to be doing another alien role-playing game related video. I'm going to show you a couple examples of combat using the alien system. This is going to be just two one-on-one fights. So we got our intrepid colonial marshal, Jack Harris, and he's going to be going up against a human, basically gunman in one scenario, and then in the other one he's going to go up against a Xenomorph Warrior. So things could get pretty dicey there pretty quickly. So we're going to go over some of the basics of the combat system. For if you have the Alien Core rulebook, the combat descriptions. I'll just find it here. Combat and there we go. Combat and panic. So the combat stuff, combat rules begin on page 86. We're just drawing initiative and then going through close combat and everything else like that. So I'm just going to sort of describe things as we go. If you want a more detailed, in-depth video, we can certainly do that. In the video, to plug a previous video that I did for the Alien role-playing game, I showed the Alien Game Mother screen, and that had a chart of actions we can take in combat. We'll touch on those again really quickly here in this video because I got the screen right in front of me. But we've got our scenarios here. I did a little bit of modification to Jack just to make him hopefully stand up a little bit longer. So just a couple of things. So the first thing we did is I added 3 levels of stress to him. So he was called to a crime scene where there was like an active shooter and the shooter still believed to be in the area. We've had to make some skill checks in order to, try to track them down. And let's just say we had to push some rolls. We ended up, whoops, I forgot to erase that. Let's just say we had to, push some rolls, or we saw a, particularly bloodied body or, mutilated body. So we have 3 levels of stress just to see how that's going to work for us. Whoop. We don't have any, injuries or anything that we have to worry about. This is actually my 3rd attempt at this video. I got pretty far and just wasn't happy with the way I was describing things, so hopefully this will be a little bit better. And I also gave him some body armor. I would have liked to have given him one with a little bit less of an armor rating, but it's not too big of a deal. I could just say that, the M3 personnel armor, maybe Jack was formerly a colonial marine before he, left the Corps and moved to Shake and Bake Weyland-Yutani colony, where he became a marshal there instead. But he still has his old armor from his time in the Corps. So he's put that on because he's going into an active shooter situation. I also gave him 2 reloads of ammunition because if you panic while firing a ranged weapon in this game, if you suffer a panic effect, meaning that you roll a 7 or higher on your panic chart, then you actually end up expelling the entire clip of ammunition, and you have to spend in your next slow action reloading the weapon in order to be able to use it again. So we have to do what's called drawing initiative first. That's the first process here that we have to worry about. We have our map set up as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. Let's just draw the initiative. In this case, we're using the initiative cards that come with the starter set. You can also buy these cards separately, I believe. But yeah, you can get them, like I said, with the starter set. You could also roll a D10 if you wanted to. Each player and each NPC combatant typically draws their own initiative cards. If there's just too many combatants for that to be feasible, then the game mother may take similarly statted NPCs and just have them all go at the same time and just draw 1 initiative card for all of them. But as a general rule, everyone gets their own card. This is just one-on-one. The other situation could be one-on-one, so we don't have to worry about drawing additional cards for everyone. But we'll start off with our draw for Jack. So I drew initiative 2 for him, and then our shooter got an initiative of 4. So Jack will go first, and then our shooter will go. For the shooter, I'm just going to assume a single success on the attack rolls because I have 3 different weapons that I want to show how they function, and then one of them is really nasty. So I sort of want to show how that works. And so instead of trying to roll and just get successes, I'm just going to pretend that he got a single success on his attacks back against Jack, and we'll go from there. But for Jack, we're going to roll things straight to begin with. Hopefully, we won't miss. So we've got our map here. Like I said, these are tiles that come from Starfinder, but they're going to work for the purposes of this. So each tile is going to be broken up into different zones. So the hallway in each tile is one zone, and then each room would be considered its own separate zone as well. So for example, I could move using a fast action. I can move one zone, so I could do that to go through. Assuming this door is open, I could just go right in, and that would be moving from one zone to another. So if I move to this tile, that's considered to move into a separate zone as well. You just want to break them down in sort of a logical fashion, and that's sort of the best way to do it for these purposes. You could also consider that the hallway, could all be just one zone, but I think it's better if, each tile, just for the purposes of this video, and again, just for logic's sake, each tile represents sort of a zone. So we're going to start back here. This is obviously not a colonial marshal, but I don't have any sci-fi or science fantasy based minis to use, and I want to be able to quickly tell Jack apart from our gunman, which we have up here. So that's why I just went with I just grabbed the first plastic mini that I could, and that's what we've got here. So I know it's not accurate, don't worry about that. It's just a vague representation so we know where people are. For the shooter, I just took a random NPC out of the starter set, options there, and just gave him some weapons to go with. So we have our shooter. So Jack was coming down the hallway. A shot gets fired and hits the hallway, like the wall next to him. He sees a shooter up ahead who sort of ducks behind the corner, and a firefight is about to break out. So we're going to go through, and Jack is going to take his turn. So on his turn, we're just going to get to the combat section here. So on Jack's turn, you can take one fast action and one slow action, or you can take two fast actions. The fast actions include run, so that's just basically you move from one zone to another. You can move through a door or a hatch. Generally, that's if they are closed, or you have to you have to actually interact with them. If the doorway is wide open, you can just go through it. I wouldn't consider that to be its own separate action. It's just part of the run action. You can get up if you're prone. You can draw a weapon. You can block an attack if you are attacked in close combat. You have to have something to block with, basically, so you have to be mindful of that. You can pick up an item, you can shove an engaged enemy, you can do a grapple attack, you can try to retreat, you can aim, so aiming gives you a +2 bonus to your roll, meaning that gives you two additional dice that you can roll. You can seek cover if there's cover in the same zone as you. You can assume an overwatch position, and if you're in a vehicle, you can grab the wheel drive, enter, exit the vehicle, or use an item as its own separate action as well. So use an item could be something like throwing a grenade, or using like a med kit or stuff like that. Our slow actions are crawling if we're prone, so you don't necessarily have to get up, you can crawl. Crawling doesn't get you very far. Let's see, so you can basically crawl into a different zone, but it's a slow action because you are moving slower. You can do a close combat attack, or you can shoot a firearm. You can do a burst of full auto fire. You can throw a weapon. You can reload. So we'll talk about how that works in a moment. You can do first aid. You can stop panic if someone else is panicking. You give orders. You can try to persuade someone, use a signature item, climb to a spacesuit, or start an engine. So for this one, we're just going to go real simple. We're going to just, he's just going to, move within the same zone, which is technically considered, you normally don't worry about that if it's in the same zone. It's only if you move from one zone to another that you could sort of consider to be an action. But he stayed within the same tile. He didn't move into a room, so moving in the same zone typically is allowed without worrying about it costing an action. So what he's going to do is he's going to try to aim, and he is going to then fire with his slow action. So aiming gives us a +2 bonus on our dice pool, which is good. Our weapon, our 357 Magnum revolver, gives us a +1 bonus as well. We also have a 2 in range combat and 4 in agility, so that gives us 6 dice, 7 dice, so we have 9 dice total that we can roll for our attack, but we also are firing at medium range because he's in a separate, an adjacent zone to the one that we're in. So that means that actually gives us a -1, so we're only getting 8 dice total. So we got 2, 4, 6, and then 8. We also have 3 stress, as I mentioned before, so we also have to pick up 3 stress dice and roll that as well. Hopefully they don't come up with those numbers. So let's just go ahead and make our roll and see what happens. Wow, that's a whole lot of nothing. All right, so we took our shot. Unfortunately, we didn't roll a single success. I'm just going to roll that again, just to see what could have happened. We'll save the... Oh no, we'll just re-roll everything. Okay, there we go. So for the purpose of this video, I do want to go through a couple of different scenarios as well. So with this one, the first scenario that we're going to look at is I hit, so we're just, ignore that for now. So we'll just go through with that. I only got one success though. If I rolled additional successes, you can do certain stunts with your ranged attack. You can use them to like knock an item out of someone's hand, or you can knock them, you can pin them to the ground. You can, there's a couple of other things that you can do as well. Most typically what you would do is just any extra success you roll, you can add additional damage for that. So we're going to do the scenarios if we had just simply hit with a single success first. And then what we'll do is we'll roll it back and we'll see what happens with the panic roll. So we'll do the panic roll second. But for first, we're just going to go through and take a look at what our weapon does. So it does a base of 2 damage. We only rolled a single success, so we're only doing 2 damage to our assailant. He only has 2 health though. So at this point, technically, if we hit him, he's knocked down. However, he is ducking behind a corner, meaning that he's got some sort of cover. There are different types of cover that are provided in the core rulebook as well as the rulebook for the starter set. So they just give you some like examples, like shrubbery gives you like an armor rating of 2. If you're behind furniture, you get an armor rating of 3. If you're behind a door, you get 4. Inner bulkhead, you get 5. Outer bulkhead, you get 6. And if you're on the other side of an armored bulkhead, you get 7+. If you're ducking behind that, I'm going to say that ducking around the corner is the equivalent of like ducking behind furniture. Only part of them might be sticking out. So that's going to give him an armor rating of 3. So what I'm going to do is roll 3 dice, and for each success that I roll, he negates the damage by 1. So we'll see what happens here. Well, he got 1 success, so that means that he would normally be taking 2 damage, but because and he only has 2 health, but because I rolled a single success, he takes 1 point of damage and is still in the fight. So that's how that works. We got the armor rating there, so we got that out of the way. But let's just say that this is what we got instead. So we got our success, but we also rolled a panic. So we got to be careful here because with that, the panic results that we get could impact our action. So, for example, if we get less than 10 on our panic results, which we'd have to, the maximum we can get is 9. It doesn't prevent our action from occurring, but if we get a 7 or higher, so 7, 8, or 9, which is the maximum we get, because we have 3, you can roll up to 6, so 9 is the highest you can get. But if we roll a 7, 8, or 9, we are technically panicking, which means that because we're firing a ranged weapon, we would essentially empty our ammo clip. We would have just fired everything that we had in the chamber, and you'd have like a few clicks. A really good example of like the panic firing like that, even though it's not Alien, in the movie Predator, the scene where they're just firing at the jungle, that is definitely like a panic roll, especially with Mac, because he's pulling the trigger well after his ammo's been depleted. So that's like an example of a panic situation. So for panic, we're just going to roll a d6 and add our panic level. Right now we have 3 stress, so we're adding 3 to this roll. So we got a 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. So looking at our panic chart, which we showed in the last video, but we're just going to quickly see if we can get to it here. There we go. So with our panic roll, we got 1 through 6 is keep it together. You managed to keep your nerves in check, but barely. So in this situation, we didn't actually burn through our ammo. We're good. We're okay. We're safe for that. And our assailant took 1 point of damage. So now it's going to be his turn. So we're just going to go through, and so the first thing he's going to do is he's going to attack us with this, M5 EVA pistol. So that's what it looks like there. He's going to take a shot at us with it. It gives us a +1 bonus on the roll. It does 1 damage, but it has the armor piercing ability. So that's the one thing I wanted to test here. So looking at our character, our NPC, he gets agility of 4, but he doesn't have any ranks in ranged combat. So we're only rolling the 4 dice here. Now, again, I want to actually go through the scenarios as if he hits, so I'm not going to roll the dice. I'm just going to assume that he got like a single success, so we'll do that. So we'll just say that that's his roll. So his weapon is armor piercing. So I already showed you a basic armor roll with his being ducked behind cover. So I gave Jack, like I said, I gave him some body armor for this scenario. So he has an armor rating of 6, meaning that normally he'd be rolling 6 dice whenever he's hit by any sort of physical attack. So, that's normally a decent amount. However, this is armor piercing. So what armor piercing does is it actually divides your armor rating by 2. So instead of having an armor rating of 6 against this weapon, I only have an armor rating of 3. So I get to roll my 3 dice and see if I negate that 1 point of damage. And I don't. I didn't roll any successes. So Jack Harris takes a point of damage. So I'm just going to check off one of his health boxes. And because I took damage in combat, I also add an extra level of stress. So the next time I roll, I'm rolling an additional stress die for my range attacks. So that could be bad. But that's one situation. That's one weapon that he could be firing at us. Let's just move on to another scenario. Again, we'll just assume that he succeeded. So let's just say that instead of shooting us with a pistol, he shoots us at close or short range with a pump action shotgun. I should also mention that each weapon has a range entry for them. So for example, the revolver and the pistol both had a medium range. Some weapons have long range and some of them only have short range. Those are ones where you are only really effective with the weapon at that range. So beyond that, your weapon's not going to do too much. So shotgun is a close range weapon if you've ever played Doom or Halo or any of those games. So let's just say we're in the same zone. So let's just say he moved up. Instead of taking the aim action, he moved into the same zone because he wanted to get, a bonus on his shot as well for being at, same range or short range. Actually, you don't get a bonus for short range, but let's say you wanted to move in short range anyway to avoid the penalty for medium range. So let's just say we get shot with the shotgun. So the shotgun does 3 damage with the base roll. Again, I only got 1 success. It does give me 2 bonus, so I would have rolled 6 dice. So let's just say that's what I got instead. So I'm only doing the base 3 damage, but this one has what's called armor doubled. So basically with the shotgun, with the, I don't know what they call it, the like bird shot or the buckshot, whatever it is, it's basically like just the pellets that it shoots out. With the futuristic body armor, it's not as effective. So because he's wearing armor, it actually doubles the armor rating. So instead of rolling 6, I get to roll 12 dice. So we're just going to get all of those because that's 10. I'm just going to roll 2 more here. And I'm not going to worry about panic rolls on this because this is just for armor. So there we go. And we got, so in this case, we got 2 successes. So we negated the damage by 2. So we still take 1. So going back would be the same process because this is the shot that he attacked us with. So I would, take the damage, add to the stress level, but, each scenario would have had him starting off at full health. So he's still technically in the game, which is good. But now let's move on to the third possible one. And this one is pretty rough because it is a gosh dang flamethrower. So let's just say he's attacking us with a flamethrower instead. No bonuses for anything. So with his 4 dice, that's what he rolled. He got a single success. So it does a base damage of 2. However, it also does fire intensity 9. So fire intensity, let's just take a look here in the book and see what it says. Actually, we'll read the entry for the flamethrower first. So it starts down here, just says, this carbine-style flamethrower uses a naphtha fuel canisters to fire a thick, steady stream of flame at a target. Is common use by the USCMC, who deploy the weapon at the squad and fire team level. Civilian models exist too. The troops who have in the field given the M240 the unceremonious nickname of Bake-A-Flake. It's a good standby weapon to have in a pinch, especially when facing off against hostile organisms. Most animals retreat from fire, yes. Any target hit by the incinerator unit also catches fire intensity 9, which is on page 108. So we do the 2 damage plus fire intensity 9. So fire. A fire is measured in intensity. A typical fire has an intensity of 8, so this one actually does 9. When exposed to fire, roll a number of base dice equal to the intensity. For each success rolled, you suffer 1 point of damage. Armor can protect you. If you take damage, you catch fire and continue to burn and suffer another attack at the start of each new round. The intensity increases by 1 for each round, so the fire spreads. As soon as a fire attack inflicts no damage, the fire goes out by itself. You or a friend at engaged range can roll or can put the fire out with a successful mobility roll, which is a slow action. If you are broken by fire damage or suffer fire damage when already broken, you must make a death roll every round until you die or are saved by a medical aid roll. So this can be rough. This can definitely be rough. So he hit us. We take 2 damage to begin with, but he also rolls fire intensity 9. So we take 9 dice, roll them, only 1 additional success. So we're looking at 3 damage total. It's not bad. That's not bad. So armor can protect us, as it said. So we go back to our base armor rating of 6, and we are going to roll those 6 dice and hope for the best. Because I need to, so again, we're assuming that I'm at full health, but I need to negate 2 of the 3 damage, at least. Stay up. And I only negated 1 point of damage. So in this case, our character would be considered broken. So we're going to look at broken next, to see what happens. So when we're broken, let's just get that section here in the book. Okay, so we are broken. If you drop to 0 health, you are broken. In effect, taken out of the action. Immediately roll for a critical injury, which we're going to do in a moment. If you're not dead, you can crawl and mumble through the pain. You can't perform any other actions, and you can't roll for any skills. You can't go below 0 health, but each further attack that causes damage will give you another critical injury. Now, keep in mind, this particular critical injury is the result of a flamethrower, so we are caught on fire, which means we have to roll a death save every round. So what that is, we have to roll a stamina check. So stamina is a skill, but we're not looking too good on it because we have no ranks in stamina, and we only have a 2 strength, so we're only going to be rolling 2 dice there, which is kind of scary. But that's on our turn. So, for example, if we had another party member, they could come over with a medical aid roll and try to heal me or put me out, and someone can help put me out, and then another person can heal me. So, you make the death roll on your turn, not the turn that you get knocked down. But it's still pretty bad. So getting back up, there's only 2 ways to do it in this game. So if you're not suffering from a fatal injury, you can get back up on your own after about 5 to 10 minutes. So after a turn has passed, if no one's helped you, you just sort of shake it off and you can sort of get back up on your own. Or if someone comes over and does a first aid roll, so they make a medical aid check, and each success they get to restore a hit point, that can get you up as well. So let's roll for the critical injury. So we've got our critical injury chart here. It's on page 100 of the core rulebook. It's also on the game other screen, which is sitting in front of me here, so I'm just going to regard that. So the way we do critical injuries is you roll percentile, well, not percentile, but you roll 2 d6s. 1 represents the tens digit, 1 represents the ones digit, so you get numbers from like 11 to 16, 21 to 26, 31 to 36, and so on. I'm going to say that the yellow die is going to be our tens digit, and the black die is going to be our ones digit, so we'll see what we get here. 51. So 51, that's actually a fatal injury. So we have a ruptured, or where do we go? We have a busted kidney, which is kind of weird to get with the flamethrower. So let's just actually roll, see if we get something a little more. Let's not do that because that's literal death. Jeez. Here we go. We'll go with this one instead. So this is 15. So we got like blood in our eyes, where we basically, like we got burned and maybe we got like soot in our eyes or something. You can sort of modify that if you need to. It's not fatal, but observation and range combat rolls are done at -2 until a medical aid roll is made. So right now we are still broken, we are still on fire, so we don't have to worry about that too much, but that's the injury that we suffered. Again, with the other results, the 65 was a pierced head, meaning that we would have died immediately anyway. Then I think I rolled 61, which is ruptured jugular. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of show a non-lethal one for this combat, just a critical injury. But again, we're on fire, so next turn I would be rolling a fire intensity 10 check, which would be bad. But right now we're down, we are technically dying, so I need to make a stamina roll to see if I live or die. And no successes there, so technically Jack Harris, when he came around the corner, got blasted by a flamethrower, he died. So that's how that can happen. So again, just in sort of an example of some of the things you can go up against, some of the different rolls, or how some weapons can affect your armor rating, or stuff like that. So I want to show those 3 different scenarios, just sort of show how that works. But let's just do the combat straight now. And we've got a pistol versus a revolver situation. So let's just do it, like I said, perfectly straight. We'll have Jack here. We'll use the same initiatives, and we're going to have our 3 stress to start with. So again, we'll just sort of show how this works now when I'm rolling for everything. So Jack goes first. He's got his dice that he's got here. So he's got 6 dice for his skill, 3 dice for his stress. He gets a +1 bonus die for the revolver itself. It grants a bonus. However, we're firing into an adjacent zone, which is which is a medium range. Our weapon is effective at medium range, but because we're firing into another zone adjacent to ours, it gives us a -1 penalty, so that those 2 cancel out. So we're just going to take our shot. Okay, we got 1 success, but we also rolled a panic. So let's just go ahead and roll the panic result. Whoops, so that's 6. That's actually kind of bad because we got a 9 on this one. So we actually end up dropping an item. So it says, whether by stress, confusion, or the realization that you're all going to die anyway, you drop a weapon or other important item. The GM decides which one, and my stress level increases by 1. So my stress level goes up to 4. And that actually interrupts it doesn't interrupt what I do, but because I'm panicking, I actually end up just burning my entire clip. So I shoot all the bullets that are currently loaded into my revolver, and I had a reload ready to go that I ended up just dropping because for a brief moment in time, it just doesn't seem like it's worth it. So one of my reloads is gone. I could have him drop the gun as well, but I think just having him drop the reload instead works just as well. That's the decision I'd probably go with. So we've got that. But we still hit. Like I said, that doesn't actually interrupt our action. It's 10 or above that does that. So we're good there. So we do a base damage of 2. We only rolled 1 success, so we can't roll anything else or do any additional damage. And we've got our cover. So we've got our 3 cover dice. We'll see if our criminal survives this. So we got 1 success. He takes 1 damage and he had 2 health, so he is still standing. So it comes down to his turn next. On his initiative, he's going to fire his pistol at us, which is also medium range. It only does 1 damage, but is armor piercing. So we're going to see what happens here. We already determined he doesn't have a range combat. His weapon gives us a +1 bonus, but he's firing into an adjacent zone, which is -1, so that washes out. So we're just rolling our 4 agility dice. And he actually got 1 success. So he did actually, the bullet hit us, so it's just a matter of whether our armor absorbs it or not. It is armor piercing, so our armor rating 6 gets reduced down to 3. And we actually take the 1 damage, so we have 1 health left. And our stress actually goes up again by 1 because we took damage in combat. So now we have 5 stress, but we're going to come back around to the next turn. So in this turn, what we're going to do is Jack is going to take the aim action. And so that gives him a +2 bonus to his attack roll, but -1 for range. So he's going to get an extra 1 dice to roll. So we got the 2, 4, 6, 7. And then we have 5 stress. So we'll see what happens here next. Okay, let's make sure all the dice are showing. So no stress, no panics, but we got one success. Whoops, and it looks like it was just the one success. So again, we deal 2 damage. He's got a 3 cover for the 3 armor rating for the cover that the criminal is behind, and he negates 1, but he only had 1 health left, so he gets taken down. So Jack survives, but didn't have the best go of it. So that's sort of again a combat scenario with a humanoid opponent. So with humanoid opponents, both the NPCs and the PCs have the exact same action economy, and the players or the game mother gets to choose the tactics for the humanoid opponent because they use logic or tactics as they sort of go. However, the next scenario I want to take a look at is what happens when we face off against a xenomorph. So we're going to just move all of this stuff off to the side. We're going to change our token to the xenomorph. So we're going to put our xenomorph here. So right now he is 2 zones away from our character. So I'm gonna reduce the stress a little bit and give him full health. But I'm gonna put him at 4. I'm gonna put Jack at 4 stress. So basically, at first he was just going and going after this criminal. However, he stumbled across, the fact that this building maybe isn't as abandoned as he would have hoped. And, Weyland-Yutani had tried to do some research here with the xenomorphs, and they broke out because they want to do that. So we got to take a look at the xenomorph stats in the core rulebook. For this one, I'm going to say that we are using the Xenomorph Warrior because they give you like the drone, the runner, they give you the Praetorian. There's all kinds of different, the Queen. So there's all kinds of different ones that we can go up against. But we're going to go up against the alien soldier, the Xenomorph soldier, like what we had in the movie Aliens. So the first thing we got to do is take a look at their stats. So we got their statistics here. Oh, it's kind of hard to hold everything up here. There we go. So they have a speed of 2. So we'll describe what that means in a second. They have 8 health. Skills, they have mobility of 8, and then observation of 8. Armor rating of 10, or 5 versus fire, which we don't have any fire weapons for poor Jack here. And they have an acid splash of 10. Okay. So we'll look at the speed first. Just give me a moment here. Just want to mark that page. So when it comes to drawing initiative, you draw a number of initiative cards equal to your speed. So Jack, being a human, and most like humanoid NPCs all have a speed of 1. The xenomorphs, on the other hand, especially the Xenomorph Warrior, has a speed of 2. So they get to draw 2 cards. So we're going to go with Jack first. So Jack draws a 6. So he gets that one. Xenomorph Warrior draws a 5. Ooh, that's not good. And then an 8. So basically, in a single round, the turn order is the Xenomorph, Jack, and then the Xenomorph again. So the Xenomorph still gets to take, certain fast actions, like it will move towards its nearest, it'll move towards the threat that you want it to. So as the game mother, you can sort of determine which character may go after. In this case, again, it's one-on-one. So it's going to take its first turn, and it's just going to move into this zone here. And we're just going to say that that's its turn. So, it could technically take 2 fast actions, which means that I could have had it go 2 zones. So let's just say, maybe it started further back. But it basically runs up, through the hallway, and Jack is now currently staring this thing in its eyeless skull and is probably pretty terrified. But that was its turn. So Jack is going to get his action now. So he is going to take a shot at it. So again, we've got our 6 dice. We have a +1 bonus for our weapon, but a -1 for the range. And we're going to say that right now he has 4 stress on him. So he's going to make his attack roll. That one was cocked. Oh, okay, well that kind of sucks because I actually rolled pretty decently there. So I actually got 4 successes, which is good, but I also rolled a panic. And I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but it doesn't matter how many instances of panic you roll. So like, let's just say that I got like a roll like this, with 3 panic results. You only ever roll panic once for any given situation. So even though there's 3 dice showing, I still only have to roll once. It's just more chances to have that panic happen. So that's just one thing. I can't remember if I mentioned that earlier or not. So I just want to make sure that I got that in here now. But we are panicking, so I got to make the panic roll. So I'm adding 4 to this D6 roll. So that's bad. So I actually ended up rolling a 10. So 10 says that you freeze. You're frozen by fear or stress for 1 round, losing your next slow action. So I can still technically take a fast action. So my stress level and the stress level of all friendly PCs in short range of you increases by 1. Well, I don't have anyone around me, but my stress level does go up. And all those successes now don't mean anything because, I saw this thing and I basically feel that it's probably not worth even trying to shoot it. So there's that. Had I succeeded, however, and not rolled any stress at all, or panic at all, then I could have done my base damage of 2 for the regular success, and then I could have done 1, 2, 3 more damage. So I could have done a potential of 5 damage versus the Xenomorph's armor rating. So let's just say that I didn't panic for those purposes. So the Xenomorph does have an armor rating of 10, so he's looking to negate 5 damage. So 2, 4, 6. Yeah, that's all the black dice. I don't know why I was counting. So let's just have him roll armor. And we got 1, 2, 3 successes. So he only takes 2 damage. So the Xenomorph went from 8 health down to 6. So let's just say in this scenario, because I'm probably going to die next turn. So let's just say in this scenario that our criminal friend was also like right here. So he's not engaged, but he is in like short range of the Xenomorph. Because the Xenomorph was hit with an attack, then we do our Acid Splash ability. So the Acid Splash had a rating of 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll 10 dice. And anyone in short range of the Xenomorph ends up taking acid damage. Actually, let me just quickly look that up because I can't remember if it's short range or engaged range. Okay, so Acid Splash says when it's wounded, so it's Acid Splash, so it is engaged range. So let's just say that he moved up and this guy was right here. So he would take the 10 base dice for the acid. Wow, not a single success. Let's just try that again. I want to show how this ability works. Okay, so here we got 2 successes. So he gets shot. There's somebody there in melee range with him. And then the acid comes out. We've seen it, like, Drake gets hit by the acid. Hicks gets hit by the acid when he, shoots the alien with the shotgun as he's trying to open up the APC door. So we have 2 points of acid damage. So let's just say that our ally also is wearing the same kind of armor that we are, because acid actually affects armor differently than any other attack does. Every other attack, your armor could just absorb it or it doesn't. But with acid, it's a little bit different. So our armor rating, let's just say it's 6. So 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so let's just say our friend absorbed 1 point of acid damage. What that actually entails is that the acid starts eating through his armor. So his armor rating would go from 6 down to 5 permanently until you can either repair the armor or replace it. So that is one thing to keep in mind when facing off against the Xenomorphs, is that you can block acid damage with your armor, but the amount that you block it by, your armor rating is permanently reduced by. So I just want to sort of get that one in, just as a hypothetical situation. But now we're just going to go resume our regularly scheduled program and move into our next initiative turn. So the Xenomorph goes on initiative 8. And it moves in, and we now go to its attacks. Now, the alien creatures in this system or in this game, they don't attack with the same sort of tactics or mentality or what we would consider like strategic thinking that we would normally do. They tend to be a little bit more random. So they may play with their opponent, they may try to capture them, they may try to kill them. We've seen this in the movie with, the original Alien, for example. Some characters were just flat out killed, while Dallas and Brett were taken back to sort of a makeshift hive. So, and then we have the situation with Lambert and sort of what happened there, as well as deleted scenes where the xenomorph actually took time to sort of consider what was going on before it attacked. So there's all kinds of different things that we can do here. So we've got 6 different options that the xenomorph soldier can possibly do. So we roll a d6 to determine what the attack was. So we'll just go through and I'll just read what all 6 are and sort of how they're done, because we don't have actual normal attack rules, like attack ratings that we had for the humanoid characters. Each separate attack will have its own description. So the first one says, assessing the threat. The xenomorph pauses, hissing quietly, but all the more threatening for that. It looks like it's thinking, or maybe giving silent orders to unseen companions. Everyone within medium range gets +1 stress level. So no attack there, but it does stress everybody out. The second one is one for all. So the xenomorph leaps at the largest group of enemies and roars a challenge, sweeping its arms, legs, and tail throughout their ranks. All targets within short range must succeed on a mobility roll or be knocked off their feet, taking 1 point of damage. All the targets must make immediate panic rolls. Number 3 is all out attack. The xenomorph launches into a wild attack, throwing every claw, fang, and its pointed tail at its victim. It attacks with 12 base dice, damage 2, and the attack is armor piercing. So that's a lot of bad stuff. Number 4 is capture for the hive. So the xenomorph attacks with its venom spiked tail. With 12 base dice, damage 1. If the attack causes any damage, the xeno pulls its punch, so only 1 point of damage is inflicted, and the paralyzing venom takes effect. The victim must make a stamina roll, and the number of successes rolled are the number of rounds in which you could stay up. They then fall unconscious for 1 shift, a shift being 5 to 10 hours. The paralysis can be removed with a shot of adrenaline, which you have to make a medical aid roll using a med kit, but otherwise the xeno will capture them and for the egg chamber. Number 5 is die for the queen. The xenomorph, desperate to protect its hive and queen, leaps towards the enemy, eviscerating itself as it does so. Its acid blood showers everywhere. All targets within short range of the xeno suffer an immediate acid splash attack of 12 base damage, and the xeno dies squealing. Headbite. The xenomorph opens its lower jaws, or its outer jaws wide, and the deadly inner jaws lean out, gnashing in anticipation before snapping forwards. The attack is rolled with 10 base dice, damage 2, and if it causes any damage, it automatically inflicts critical injury number 64, 64 being the crushed skull, and the victim, killing the victim in 1 dreadful blow. So again, that can be pretty bad. So we're going to roll a d6 to see what attack he does. So we rolled a 4, so that's capture for the hive. So that is with 12 base dice. So I'm just going to roll the 2 panic dice. I'm not worried if I roll a 1. I'm only looking for 6s on these. And then the 10 other dice here. And 1, so 2 successes. Again, I'm not worried about that because I'm only looking for 6s. Yeah, so that's 2 successes. It normally does 1 damage, so right now we're looking at 2 damage, but I do have my armor that I can try to hopefully absorb or deflect the attack with. It does not say that it is armor piercing, which is good. So we've got our 6 armor, and we need to negate both points. So if we don't roll 2 successes, we're done here. And I did not roll 2 successes, so I get stabbed with the poisonous tail. It only does 1 damage, so I take 1 damage. I had 2 health. That increases my stress level by 1, so I'm up to like 6 stress now. But I can still technically stay in the fight. At this point, I can roll a stamina check. So I don't have any ranks in stamina. I only have a 2 in strength, so we'll see what happens. But each success that I roll is another round that I get my regular actions in. And we didn't get anything. So unfortunately, my character gets paralyzed right away and ends up dying. Or, well, basically dying. He gets captured, taken to the hive, and gets, implanted with an embryo. So that's basically, what attacking the xenomorph can be like. It can be pretty rough. And the thing about the xenomorphs as well is that even if you knock them down to 0, unlike regular humanoid NPCs, they don't necessarily die right away, which is kind of, again, this sort of scary thing about them. So there is a chart. I just forget exactly where it is. Here we go. Oh no, those are the attacks, sorry. Hold on. Crap. So this is going to bother me now. But there is a chart basically that tells you what happens when you kill a xenomorph. Actually, it might be at the beginning of this section because I think it works for both. Critical injuries. Okay, so yeah. So with the xenomorphs, even if I got him down to 0 hit points, he's not necessarily dead. I would have to roll to see what happens. So let's just say I managed to somehow, take him down, take the xenomorph down. There's a chart that I roll on. So I rolled a 3. We'll go through each of the actions. But for 3, so we'll look at that one in a second. But first we have Rise Again on a 1. So if I manage to knock the xenomorph down to 0 health, the xenomorph falls to the ground, seemingly dead. But it's a ruse. If it's attacked again or on its next initiative, it regains 1 point of health and rises fueled by instinctive hatred. Number 2 is Wounded, so it staggers, bleeding severely. Its speed is -1, so you lose one of its initiative cards. You lose the lowest initiative card that you drew. But it regains 1 point of health. Roll a d6 at the start of each round. On 1 to 3, it tries to escape. So we'll look at 3 in a second here. We'll just move on to 4. 4 is Last Breath. The xenomorph is mortally wounded and contorts wildly. On its next initiative, it will try to kill the nearest victim. Then the beast dies. If it's wounded again before then, it dies instantly. And then 5 to 6 is Torn Apart. Instant death. The xenomorph is torn apart or crushed amidst shrieks of rage, severely mutilated. It can only be analyzed with an observation check at -2. But I ended up rolling 3 in this situation, so 3 is Desperate Action. The xenomorph is severely wounded and cries out in alien fury. It immediately gets to perform a fast and slow action outside of the normal turn order. Roll 1d6. On 1 to 3, it tries to escape. If it succeeds, it regains half its health. On 4 to 6, it instantly attacks the nearest opponent. If it fails to inflict any damage, the creature dies. If it succeeds, it regains 1 point of health. So again, so the xenomorphs, even though your regular humanoid NPCs, if they're knocked down to 0, you could basically consider them to be out of the combat. With the xenomorph, it's not quite that simple. So there you go. I hope that sort of helped at least a little bit with the way that certain things can happen in combat. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything about combat that you have any questions about. Let me know when it comes to like damage or healing or critical injuries or anything along those lines. But like I said, I hope this sort of helped explain how how the combat system works. So that is the Alien role-playing game. The next video that I do in this series will probably be looking at stealth mode and how to operate that. And after that, I'll probably just do my final review. But so far, really enjoying the system. And I do like the combat. Like I said, it can be pretty deadly, but with the critical injury chart, you do have a chance to sort of be able to shrug things off as well, which is good. So yeah, until next time, thanks for watching and take care.